This is Plant-Based Briefing. Vegan for 10 years, 10 reasons why it's still the best decision I ever made. Part 2 by Brigitte Gemme at veganfamilykitchen.com. I'm Marian Erickson. This is the curated content plant-based podcast where I narrate a variety of articles on healthy, compassionate, and sustainable living with permission in about 10 minutes or less every weekday. And this one was longer than that, so it's a two-parter. I read part 1 yesterday, so go back and listen to that first, and then jump in here for part 2. And now let's get to today's plant-based briefing. Vegan for 10 years, 10 reasons why it's still the best decision I ever made. Part 2 by Brigitte Gemme at veganfamilykitchen.com. Reason 5, weight management is easier on a plant-based diet. This may be a bit shallow, but I like to eat a lot of food without gaining weight. That's thanks to the low-calorie density of plant foods, which allows me to enjoy a plate full of vegetables and beans, plus some whole grains, and still have room in my daily calorie budget for the occasional treat. I would hate having to pay close attention to calories, carb count, or portion size in general, or have to deny myself seconds when I feel like having them. Reason 4, moderation isn't what people think. Some believe that moderation is good in all things. However, most have a skewed view of what moderation actually means. Small amounts of meat would mean maybe a couple of palm-sized pieces of chicken or fish per week, and an egg every few days. Such small amounts of animal products probably wouldn't cause major health problems if one is also eating copious amounts of vegetables and beans throughout the week. However, even people who think they eat animal products in moderation still have them every day, often in multiple portions. This robs them of the opportunity to eat far more nutritious and healing plant foods. Reason 3, being fully vegan decreases my mental load. How much meat, dairy, and eggs can or should a flexitarian be eating? What amount of meat does one have to take out of their diet to earn the label reducitarian? The logical consequence of the reasons I've shared so far for being vegan for 10 years is to drastically cut back on meat consumption. But what does that mean in practice? What does one do at restaurants, when traveling, or at social events where abundant animal products may be used? What about when visiting friends? If one eats at home 98% of the time, it's easy, but the average person spends half of their food dollars outside of the grocery store. Conflict opportunities abound. By choosing to be fully vegan, I reduce my mental load. I don't need to make decisions about if or when I'm going to eat animal products. I just default to plants all the time. If there's nothing vegan to eat, I just don't eat, which has happened to me perhaps twice in 10 years. No big deal. And ethical reasons. What makes me tip beyond being predominantly plant-based to fully vegan is, at the end of the day, a commitment to avoid being responsible for inflicting unnecessary pain onto other sentient beings. Reason 2, life on industrial farms is miserable. The horrors of life as an animal born in an industrial farm is impossible to describe. Billions of beings are selectively bred to develop attributes desirable to humans, but deleterious to their own well-being, whether it's disproportionately large breasts for chickens, daily laying of eggs for hens, or rigorously humongous and gorged udders for cows. Billions of beings are born into a brutal existence that's violent from birth to death, just so that humans can enjoy foods they find familiar, flavorful, and convenient. As Jeremy Bentham noted, the question is not can they reason, nor can they talk, but can they suffer? And we know for fact that they can and do suffer. We can all reasonably agree that factory farms are awful, but what about small, quote-unquote, humane country farms? Reason number 1, humane meat does not exist. One might want to believe that supporting a small, humane farm is possible, but the straight-up reality is that it isn't. First, considering that the vast majority of consumers are very sensitive to price fluctuations in the cost of foods, it is simply not possible to raise animals with the kind of space they would need to meaningfully exercise in somewhat natural conditions. And even if we could at an extremely high price point, then livestock would only be taking more space and have a greater environmental footprint. Humane meat is a lovely idea in theory, but not a reality. Second, humane slaughter is a contradiction in terms. Animals aren't stupid. They can see, hear, and smell better than humans. Maybe in the best possible conditions, the first animal may be fooled into approaching the knife thinking they will be petted, but the second animal in line will sense death and, given the choice, would prefer to live. Even if one doesn't care about the animals or believe them to be sentient, then of course there's the toll slaughter takes on those who have to slice their throats, humans. Meatpacking plants are some of the most dangerous places to work, and no one can be killing hundreds or thousands of animals every day and come home to their family at peace and in a joyful mood. Even if so-called humane slaughter existed, would it not take a bit of dissociation to be kind, gentle, and loving to an animal who doesn't want to die and kill them the next minute? Top reason, why not? Though there are some very limited and narrow exceptions, such as people dealing with multiple life-threatening allergies, we know that from a nutritional perspective, practically everyone can not only survive, but thrive on an entirely plant-based diet. We also know that growing plants is more efficient and less environmentally damaging than raising animals. We are fully aware of the suffering inflicted upon innocent beings for human pleasure and convenience. For me, knowing all that and not acting upon it took a psychic toll. I carried the burden of cognitive dissonance for some time, perhaps primarily because I didn't have the energy to proceed with the changes I needed to make to my daily habits, especially when it came to cooking and eating. Maybe that's the situation you are in right now too, and I get it. I just want you to know that 10 years ago, when I let go of my habit of eating animals, I felt immediate relief. A spiritual weight was lifted off my shoulders, and everything felt so right once my knowledge, beliefs, and actions were aligned. You can experience that too. You just listened to Vegan for 10 Years, 10 Reasons Why It's Still the Best Decision I Ever Made, Part 2 by Brigitte Gemme at veganfamilykitchen.com. And I'm Marian Erickson, your host. This is such a great article. I got chills reading that last paragraph because it really does come down to that. It's just so freeing and so right and feels so good to have your actions aligned with your knowledge and your beliefs. And I also get that people might not have the energy to figure out how to eat, but there are so many more resources. Vegan Family Kitchen is an amazing one. Reach out to me, reach out to anyone you know who is promoting this lifestyle, and we would be absolutely thrilled to help people in any way make the transition. And as always, I post a link to the original article in the show notes. And from there, you might want to check out some of the graphics that Brigitte has here. She's got some on the environment, some on calorie density, some showing animals, how they're being raised. There's a cute graphic, Winnie the Pooh and Piglet walking, and Piglet says, "Pooh, will my slaughter be humane?" "I don't know, Piglet. Do you want to live?" "Yes, I do. I want to live." "Then no, little buddy, it won't be humane." That sums it up pretty well, too. So please share this episode with anyone who might benefit, and thanks for listening.